Welcome, loyal blog listeners and readers, to our next installment of our podcast series, the Class Action Weekly Wire. I'm Jerry Maatman, a partner with Duane Morris, and joining me today are my colleagues Zev and Anna. Thanks so much for agreeing to be on our podcast.
Thanks, Jerry. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Jerry. Glad to be here.
Today on the podcast, we're discussing the recent publication of this year's edition of the Duane Morris Discrimination Class Action Review. Listeners can find this particular ebook on our blog, the Duane Morris Class Action Defense blog. Anna, can you tell our listeners a little bit about this desk reference?
Absolutely, Jerry. Class action litigation in the discrimination space remains a key focus of skilled class action litigators in the plaintiff's bar. Duane Morris is pleased to present the Discrimination Class Action Review 2025. This publication analyzes key discrimination-related rulings and developments in 2024 and the significant legal decisions and trends impacting discrimination class actions for 2025. We hope that companies and employers will benefit from this resource in their compliance with the evolving laws and standards.
Well, in following class action litigation developments over the 20 years, it's very clear that discrimination-related litigation is a key focus of the plaintiff's class action bar, especially in recent years, and especially in terms of what's newsworthy these days coming out of Washington, D.C. Zev, can you share with us your thoughts with respect to the relative success rates that plaintiffs have enjoyed in this particular area of the law?
Yeah, absolutely, Jerry. So over the past year, what we've seen are plaintiffs are succeeding in certifying their cases at a slightly higher rate than ever before. In 2024 alone, for example, courts actually granted class certification 53% of the time, which is slightly up from the 50% that we saw in 2023. And what this shows us is that despite some of the challenges, plaintiffs are actually more successful in achieving certification. And what that is it's a reflection of courts becoming more inclined to allow these cases to move forward, particularly in discrimination cases where there's a broader societal awareness of issues like racial inequality and gender discrimination.
That's an interesting comment. Anna, what's your take with respect to the sorts of defenses or the sorts of situations where conversely the defense bar is successful in blocking or fracturing these sorts of cases and preventing them from being certified as a class action?
It's certainly become a much more rigorous process. In the wake of the Walmart Inc. v. Dukes decision, courts have been stricter about class certification. For a class to be certified, plaintiffs still need to meet the requirements of Rule 23, especially around the rule of commonality. In discrimination cases, this often means that they're trying to prove alleged discriminatory practices or policies are applying uniformly across different departments, and sometimes even across state lines. It's not just enough for one person to claim that they were discriminated against. Plaintiffs need to show that this is a systemic, broader issue. And if they can't do that, defense counsel is going to argue that the class should not be certified.
Well, you mentioned the Walmart v. Dukes ruling. By my way of thinking, that might be the most significant and critical decision ever in the history of American jurisprudence when it comes to employment discrimination in the class action space. I remember that day when the decision was handed down and legal publications focused on the Supreme Court's ruling for days, given the significance of the decision. Zev, do you see sort of a pendulum swinging with respect to the way in which federal courts are applying the Walmart v. Dukes standards in Rule 23 situations?
Yeah, absolutely, Jerry. And really, it's a combination of several factors as to why we're seeing that. So public opinion is becoming more critical of large corporations, and social movements like Black Lives Matter and Me Too have absolutely kept workplace inequality in the public spotlight. And businesses are facing not only increasing employee-friendly legislation, but also a more aggressive plaintiff's bar. Courts, especially in sort of the current climate we're dealing with, are more inclined to acknowledge these issues and are allowing these cases to move forward, especially in the discrimination context. And this heightened awareness around issues of inequality has made it harder for employers to escape accountability. And we're seeing more court rulings that favor plaintiffs in this space.
But it's not all one-sided. While plaintiffs have gained some ground, courts are still very serious about ensuring that the class action standards are met, and those standards were set by Walmart v. Dukes. The bar is high, and plaintiffs can't simply rely on generalized statements like, I was harmed and I believe others were too. They have to provide concrete evidence that the issues they faced were systemic across the class.
Those are great insights and a great take from the current interpretations of the Walmart case. As we look forward into 2025, what do you see as the future of discrimination-based class action litigation? Do you think the plaintiffs' bar is going to continue to push in this space and the number of lawsuits brought against corporate America will rise again?
Without a doubt, the public's growing interest in workplace equality and the ongoing social justice movements will continue to provide that momentum for plaintiffs. Employers can expect to see more class actions in 2025, particularly as discrimination remains a high-profile issue, especially in Washington, D.C. Even though there are challenges in securing class action certification, the plaintiffs' bar is becoming more strategic and sophisticated in their approaches. They're going to continue to press forward. Businesses will have to remain vigilant in defending against these claims. It's a constantly evolving landscape.
Well, thanks for that information. The review also focuses on settlement numbers. I'm a big believer that you can tell a lot by what's going on in courtrooms throughout the United States by looking at how the plaintiff's bar is filing the case, certifying the case, and then monetizing it in a settlement. How did plaintiffs do in the last calendar year in terms of securing hefty settlements in this particular area?
Yeah, plaintiffs came out well in 2024, Jerry, but nowhere to the extent that they did in 2023. The top 10 discrimination settlements in 2024 totaled about $356 million, 356.8 to be exact, which, don't get me wrong, is a lot, but compared to the previous year, it's slightly down, where the top 10 totaled $762.2 million.
Well, those are large numbers nonetheless. And I thank you both for providing your thought leadership in this particular space and reviewing in at 100,000-foot level what corporations can expect in the coming year. So thanks so much for joining us today on the Class Action Weekly Wire. And listeners, you can download our publication and desk reference off the Duane Morris Class Action Defense blog.
Thanks, Jerry, and thank you to everyone listening.
Thanks so much, everyone.